Welcome students. So, we are in the process of learning about the flexible budget, and in the previous class I was discussing with you that if we analyze the variances on the basis of the master budget, then this way the things go, and we have here put the things like master budget, then the actual performance, and then the variances we have found out. So, this is the master budget information, this is the actual budget, actual performance, and these are the variances we have calculated here. So, because we have the two different levels, master budget is for 9,000 units and actual performance is for the 7,000 units. So, proper comparison is not possible, and finding out the variances will also not be a right thing in this case of the in this kind of scenario. So, because of these limitations or this major limitation of the master budget or the static budget, we will have to go for the flexible budget. Now, the flexible budget is the solution of this kind of the problems. In the flexible budget, what we are doing here, that we are creating a budget like this, right. So, we have 3 levels of say the budgeting process we have done for 3 levels, and in this case in these 3 levels, if you look at this, we have created the budget for 3 levels, 7,000 units, 8,000 units and 9,000 units, and accordingly we have converted that into the sales, and then the cost has also been worked out for all the 3 levels. So, we have created a formula here, flexible budget formula, which is here flexible budget formula. So, with the help of this formula, now once this per unit manufacturing cost is available and it is put in the Excel, so you can easily change the number of units here. The moment you change the number of units here from 7,000 to maybe 7,500, this will automatically get multiplied by this, and then we will get the automatically the cost. Similarly, with the shipping cost, similarly with the administrative cost, and all these costs will stand converted to the cost which should be for the actual level of production, or maybe for recreating of the budget means comparable to the actual level of production. So, if any of the 3 levels is found, for example, we have prepared the budget for 8,000 units, 7,000 units and 9,000 units. So, maybe out of these 3 levels, if we have the total amount of the sales, means either of the 3 levels we already have created the budget for that, right. And if still there is a problem that none of these 3 levels the sales are equal to, so in that case, for example, it is somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 and total sales are for 7,500 units. So, in that case there is no problem at all, because we have already put the formula in the system. So, at the moment you change the number of units from the 7,000 to 7,500 or from 8,000 to 7,500, automatically system will multiply it and we will get the budget for the 7,500 units, flexible budget for the 7,500 units, which is at par with the actual production. So, we will be able to compare that for the 7,500 units of the production, what should be the variable cost, total variable cost, what should be the shipping cost, what should be the administrative expenses, and what should be the total variable cost, right. And talking about the fixed cost, largely we are expecting that that would remain the same. So, if that has not changed in case of the actual, then there is no problem, but if it has changed for the actual, so we would say that for 7,500 units also the fixed manufacturing cost would be $370,000, and if it has gone up maybe $380,000 or it has come down to $360,000, so we can find out the reasons for that. Similarly, for fixed selling and administrative cost, it is estimated here is 33,000, right. So, if it is 33,000, it should be 33,000 for all level of production, maybe ranging between 7,000 to 9,000. So, if it is 33, means we will assume it 33 and compare it with the actual, and then try to find out the variance or the deviation if there is any, and then try to find out the reasons for that. So, we can assume here that once we have created the budget for 3 levels, not for 1 level only, unlike the static budget. So, means it is quite likely that actual sales may coincide with any of the 3 levels. It may be 7,000 units, it may be 8,000 units, or it may be 9,000 units. And if it is in between any of these 3 levels, maybe 7,500 or 8,500 units, in that case also preparing the budget even at the time of comparison or when the actual performance is already available with us will take a few minutes, and automatically the system will create a budget, new budget, which will be simply multiplying the number of units with the different information pertaining to the cost and the selling price, and we will be able to have the first the budget for the flexible level or maybe the actual level of production, and then comparing it with the budgeted level of the production, we can easily find out the variances. So, that makes a sense also, because first you have to equate both the levels, what is the budget and what is the actual production, that level should be same. What are the budgeted sales, what are the actual sales, that level should be same, and then you start backtracking. But if you compare 9,000 with 7,000 or 7,000 with 9,000 units, then does not make any sense. Then variances are ought to be there, and whether the variances are means controllable, non-controllable, acceptable, non-acceptable, that it is a very difficult situation, right. So, it is always better to go for the flexible budgets or create the budgets for more than one level of expected activity. Now, after this means once the flexible budget is ready with us, we go for the variance analysis, and this is the statement which is of very significant use to you, because this statement is a very useful statement as far as the variance analysis is concerned, and ultimate purpose of any budgeting exercise is to compare the budgeted performance with the actual performance and find out the variances, right. So, we have to find out the variances, and then we will have to try to find out the reasons for the variances and control those variances, so that next time these variances do not occur, the situation does not arise, and we are able to control the operations in every respect, in every sense, and finally arrive at the estimates which we want to means the targets, the goals, the objectives which we want to achieve, right. Now, look at this statement, how interesting it is. The statement is variance analysis of performance for the month ended January 31, 2019, right. Now, in this case we have created some columns here. First of all, it is a master budget. Master budget was for how many units? 9,000 units, right. And what is the actual performance? Actual results at actual activity level are these. It means budget was for 9,000, but actual performance was only up to the 7,000 units which we could sell in the market. So, it means if you could compare this column, the column number 5 with the column number 1 or vice versa, then it does not make any sense, because cost at 7,000 unit is expected to be different, and the cost at 9,000 level of 9,000 units level of production and sales is certainly expected to be different, right. So, we will now have to create a budget which is the flexible budget for the same level of production which is actual in the sense that it is 7,000. But we have to have two kind of the variances. I told you that we calculate the variances like sales activity variance, and second is the flexible budget variances. Sales activity variances we first calculate, that is between the budgeted level and the actual level. Why the actual sales activity has come down from the anticipated or budgeted 9,000 unit to 7,000 units, first we will have to find out the reasons for that, right. And then we will have to create a flexible budget for 7,000 units if it is already not in place, and then make a comparison of the budgeted 7,000 and actual 7,000's performance and find out the flexible budget variances, right. Now, in this case, first of all you look at the column number 1 and column number 5, right. So, these are the two columns, this is actual performance, this is the master budget. So, since comparison was not possible between 7 and 9, so we created this column also, that is a column number 3, means we created a budget for the 7,000 units level, and then we first compared the column number 5 with the column number 3, and then the column number 3 with the column number 1, right. So, two variances have been found out. First of all, the level of activity has come down from the 9 to 7. So, for the 9,000 units level of production and sales, if this much is the expected cost and finally the operating income, so how actually it has it should be in case of the 7,000 units. So, we have found out here that your budgeted level was 9,000 units, actual is 7,000. So, we created a budget for 7,000, and the variance came up is that the activity level variance is a 2,000 negative, unfavorable, because the activity has come down from the budgeted 9,000 to the actual 7,000. So, by 2,000 units. Then the sales figure is certainly come down, because sales value was expected to be 279, but looking at the selling price, now it is $217,000. So, there is a variance of the $62,000 because selling price remaining the same, number of units coming down. So, naturally the sales value will come down and there is a variance which is unfavorable. It is same because the number of units has come down by 2000. Now, the variable cost we talk about. Variable cost is certainly has to be favorable because variable cost for the 9000 units is more as compared to the variable cost for the 7000 units. So, variable cost for the 9000 units was 1,96,200 and variable cost expected for the 7000 units is 1,52,600. So, naturally the variance has to be there, and in case of this situation we have found fortunately the favorable variance, that is 43,600, right. Now, the contribution margin is the, we have to see that the contribution margin is negative now because variable cost is favorable and the sales level has come down. So, it means now the contribution margin, what was the expected contribution margin as per comparing the variable cost and the this is the sales level, this is the variable cost, this is the sales level, this is the variable cost, right. So, sales minus variable cost, the contribution expected was 82,800 at the level of say master budget, but actually at the level of 7000 units now it has come down and it will come down. So, because sales have come down, so it is 64,400. So, this variance will also be negative and there is no special problem or any serious problem about it. Then we talk about the fixed cost. Fixed cost is going to remain the same at 9000 also 70,000, at 7000 also 70,000. So, there is no variance expected. So, if you compare these two columns, column 3 and column 5, these two columns are for the budgets, right. So, we had 9000 budget, actual performance 7000. So, we created a budget for 7000, so that this budget, flexible budget for the 7000 units becomes the benchmark to compare the actual performance of the 7000 units manufactured and sold in the market, right. Now, we will go for the second level of analysis, and second level of analysis is the flexible budget variance, means finding out the flexible budget variances by comparing the actual results at actual activity level and flexible budget at the actual sales activity level, which is again the 7000 units. Now, 7000 sales are expected to be, looking at the selling price, 217,000, 217,000. So, it is same, fine. We have achieved the same amount of the sales because we have not been able to increase or decrease the selling price per unit. Now, the variable cost as per the budget for the 7000 units was expected how much? 1,52,600. How much actually the variable cost has occurred? This is 1,58,270. It means variable cost has increased, means there is a negative variance of 5670, which is a serious cause of concern. Variable cost should also have proportionately come down when the level of activity has come down from the 9000 to 7000, and at the 7000, looking at this 9000 level of performance, for the 7000 units the budgeted variable expense was expected to be 1,52,600 and actually it is 1,58,270. So, there is a negative variance, your variable cost has increased as compared to the expected or the budgeted cost. So, the contribution margin has got reduced by this amount. The expected contribution margin was $64,400 and actual contribution is 58,730. So, there is a negative variance of 5670, which is again a cause of concern. Now, we come to the lower level. What was the fixed cost expected? 70,000, at 9,000 70,000, at 7,000 it should be 70,000, but here this is very say alarming situation that the fixed cost has also increased by $300, which is a very serious issue. The fixed cost cannot be allowed to increase for a given level of activity. Rather than remaining static, it has gone up by $300, which is a very serious cause of concern. In case of the variable cost, we can accept that maybe the cost of material has gone up during the period of say the period of the actual performance, maybe at the time of the preparing the budget that was a different price, but actually the while purchasing from the market the price of the material has gone up, or maybe because of some wastages of the material the cost has gone up. But in case of the fixed cost, this cost should not increase, fixed cost should not increase, that should remain the same. Normally it does not change, it changes per unit, but the total cost remains the same. So, in this case we have found a very serious problem that your fixed cost has also gone up by $300, and that is the reason that your operating income, final operating income has been affected negatively. That operating income expected at the 7,000 units of the output and sales was $5,600, and in this case means it was not operating income, but you can say it is operating loss after subtracting. We had a positive contribution, we were expecting a positive contribution of $64,400, and subtracting from the contribution the fixed cost to the tune of $70,000, the loss, operating loss expected was $5,600. But since the variable cost has also gone up in the actual performance, fixed cost has also gone up in the actual performance. So, your operating loss has gone up by the same amount of 5970. So, it is 5600 plus 5970, it is the total loss is equal to 11,570. So, it means it is again a very serious problem, and budgeting helps us to understand that we have to compare the actual performance with the budgeted performance, try to find out the variances and the reasons for the variances, and control those variances for the future, so that in future any kind of the variances, especially the negative variances, do not take place. So, you see these variances which are between the master budget and the flexible budget, they are called as the total sales activity variance, which is to the tune of 18,400 unfavorable, but this variance is a serious cause of concern, that is 5970, which was not expected to be there, because these two levels are same, 7,000 budget, 7,000 actual performance. So, these two were not expected to be same, but it has happened, means these were expected to be same, but it has not been same. So, your variable cost has increased, your fixed cost has increased, and finally total flexible budget variance has become negative here, and the total master budget variance is this plus this is equal to 24,370. So, this variance is not very important for us, it can be ignored also, but this is very important for us, because the variance between the same level of budget and same level of the actual performance should not be there. Now, we go for the further clarification on the flexible budget. I told you that the flexible budget is not only prepared in the absolute form for the firm as a whole or the organization as a whole, but for the different units and subunits, different departments and sub departments, so that when the total cost goes up, you can easily find out while preparing the activity based level flexible budget that why the cost has increased, what was the reason, which department, which section, subsections contribution has been to make the variances negative, or to increase the or to decrease the actual performance against the budgeted, or the budgeted performance against the actual. So, it is better always to divide the whole firm, whole budgeting process into the different activities, or to create a flexible budget which is known as activity wise or activity based flexible budget, so that when there is anything happens which is not desirable, we can find out the reasons for that, and once you have divided the whole firm into the different activities, so you can easily find out where the problem has come up, in which department the problem has come up, under which activity the problem has come up, and we can find out the reasons for that and take the action against the reasons responsible for that negative variance. Now, for example, in this case we have divided the whole firm, whole business operations into how many 1, 2, 3, 4 activities. One activity is the processing. So, purchasing of the raw material, supplying it to the production departments and processing it. So, it means we have created this activity and processing level. We are saying that the variable cost should be how much, that is $10.5, fixed cost is expected to be $13,000. So, this is the standard we have set for the processing level of the activity in the firm. Second activity is the setup. Setup means changing of the machines for the manufacturing of the different type of products. Now, for example, when we manufacture different type of the products in the same machine, then what happens that sometime two products are not same in all respects. So, first you manufacture one lot of the product X and then you have to manufacture the second lot of the product Y. So, you have to make some little changes. Those changes are called as a setup changes. Means you change the setup for manufacturing a different type of the product. In that case, it takes the time of the say engineers, and setting up of the machine also takes a time. So, that also causes the cost. So, for change of the setup, one activity is every time you are changing the setup for manufacturing the different products on the same plant or the machine. So, it causes the cost. So, how much time the setup has taken and how much cost it has caused. So, we created a standard here that the variable cost for the change of setup should be $500 on an average, and the fixed cost can be 12,000. Means the fixed cost can be the salaries of those people who are engineers who change the machine, who clean the machine, who reset up the machine. Now, for example, I tell you that there is a firm who is manufacturing the 4 different type of pens, right. One pen is of the blue ink, second is with the black ink, third is with the red ink, and fourth is with the purple ink, right. So, these 4 pens are manufactured. So, when we first manufacture the blue pen, right, after that we want to manufacture the black pen. So, there is not much difference in the blue and black, but still you need to clean the that bowl in which you are going to create the or you are going to prepare the ink, right. So, that cleaning is required, but that cleaning will take less time when you are converting or you are manufacturing the blue pen and then you want to manufacture the black pen. But when you have to manufacture the red pen, now that bowl where the ink is being prepared, that already has the black color in it, and if you do not clean it properly, then it can affect your red color, it can affect your purple color. So, cleaning of the setup and resetting up the machine while manufacturing blue to black will take lesser time, but from black to red it will take more time, because even iota of the black ink, if it is left in that vessel, then that will disturb the color. So, the setup time will change, setup time will differ, and you have to change the setup, because you cannot manufacture the black pen after blue and red pen after the black. So, you have to every time reset up the machine or change the machine and set it up again. So, it takes the time. So, it means we have divided the whole process into different 4 activities. Processing is one, setup is one, marketing is one, and administration is the one, right. So, that way the total cost has been bifurcated. So, and finally we will have to calculate the total, you can call it as the operating income or the loss, which has come up here is, that is 4.1. So, it means in this case you can say that we have the sales level is 7,000 units and our selling price is 31, but if you calculate the total cost here, the total cost becomes is $221 against the total sales value of the $217,000. So, finally, we have got a loss of $4.1. So, it means that loss is here because of what reasons, which department has contributed, to what extent, and why the loss has occurred, that we will be trying to find out. So, dividing the whole flexible budget into the different departments, sub departments, units and sub units is not means is very much desirable, and though it is going to take some more time, but it is very much desirable, is very much useful, because it will support all your their entire say the manufacturing process as well as the comparison between the budgeted and the actual performance. Now, the last about the flexible budgeting, last statement which we prepare is something like this now. Now, we have finalized the whole thing and we have got now the final information that is the actual cost and the flexible budget, right. Level is same, here it is 7,000 units, here it is 7,000 units, right. Now for the 7,000 units, what was the actual cost, means what was the budgeted cost expected, what is the actual cost expected, what is the actual cost that has been recorded or calculated, and now this column is giving us the variances. In this case, direct material cost budgeted was $70,000. Actually we have been able to manage the show with $69,920. So it means now we have got the $80 favorable variance, right, and now we have to find out the reasons for that. When we found out the reasons for that, in the last column the explanation is also given, lower prices but higher usage. So what we anticipated is the price per unit of the raw material. The budgeted price we expected was higher, actual price we paid was less. So we could have managed the show with still much lesser cost of material, but usage of the material somehow went up. So now we have to find out the reason for that. It is a favorable variance, you can't stop here that the variance is favorable, so we have to find out. Price has come down, fine, why the price has come down, we have to look for that also, and why the usage has increased, we have to look for that also, and then try to find out whether the reasons are controllable, uncontrollable, and if were controllable but were not controlled, so it means the necessary action should be taken against the purchase people, so that any type of the variances do not take place in future. Similarly, now we are comparing the labor. Budgeted labor cost was $56,000, actual labor cost is $61,500. So it means there is a negative variance of 5,500, and the reason given here is higher wage rates and the higher usage. So it means this is uncontrollable factor, because wage rates are not controlled by the firm, wage rates are controlled by the labor market. Depending upon the demand and supply of labor, the wage rates are decided. So you cannot influence the wage rate, so it is an uncontrollable factor, no action will be taken against anybody. And if you talk about the say usage of the labor, so why the number of hours have increased, that we will have to look for, that why more time was used for producing the same level of production. Then it means you can say we go for the other kind of things, say for example now the usage cost is, say for example the variance is favorable, we have given a reason, decrease the setup time, then for the idle time, excessive machine breakdown, why machines have broken down so frequently, we have to look for that, whether the machine needs replacement, whether the machine needs a repair or any upkeep, there is a problem in the upkeep, lubrication or servicing of the machine, all these reasons have to be found out. And then we talk about the cleaning, say next thing is the cleaning up time, cleanup of spilled solvents. So it means it is a variance is also unfavorable, it means we have to look for this. Then variable manufacturing cost or supplies, supplies means small materials, some materials like lubricants, oils and other kind of the small materials. So higher prices and the higher usage. So this is again a very important point, we will have to be careful. And then we talk about the shipping cost, so use of air freight to meet the delivery. So maybe it was not estimated that we have to use the air freight, it was expected to be sent by ship, by road, by train, but we have to somehow change that mode of transportation, so cost has increased, look for the reasons. Administration is again unfavorable, so excessive copying and the long distance calls, so your telephone expenses and other things have gone, photocopy expenses and then other things have gone up, we have to look for the reasons. And then you talk about the factory cost, so here again it is in the salaries part, supervision, factory supervision cost has gone up, salaries have increased. So this is unfavorable variance and we will have to find out the reason for that, but since salaries cost is again depends upon the external factors, so largely you cannot do much things here. So the factors which are within the control, they have to be found out and controlled, and the factors which are beyond the control, uncontrollable, you identify those factors, but we can't do anything, because finally all efforts have been made to control the cost, but it is not possible, it is beyond the control. So, look at this statement is now how convincing this statement is. You are preparing the budget, you are comparing with the actual, finding out the variances, and in the last column we are giving the explanation. Now, this explanation, this statement will be placed before the decision making committee of the top management, and in the board meeting of the company this statement will be discussed, and there the suggestive actions or preventive actions will be taken, will be suggested by the board, and next time when the budgets are prepared, every caution is taken, and when the actual performance comes, so that maybe the comparison between the budgeted and the actual for the future period do not create this kind of the situation, and no variances are found out, or the minimum variances are found out which are within the control or within the permissible limit. So, you would understand now the basic difference between the flexible budget and the master budget, and you would agree with me that flexible budgets are the better options as compared to the static budget, because it adjusts with the actual level of production, and when the budgets are as same as for the actual level of the production. So, it means comparisons are much better, more facilitated, and they are more useful. So, on this conceptual part, on the conceptual discussion, I will stop here, and means after explaining it to you to the larger possible extent, now I will take up one case where we will understand and try to learn how to prepare the flexible budgets, and how that entire analysis can be done, and how different budgeting statements under the flexible budgets can be prepared, and that case I will discuss with you in the next class. Thank you very much.